Hi there guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Prong production, and hello to this a bit more of a jankier setup, as you can probably see. So I'm going to treat this video as a bit of a stream, bit of a sort of a casual video, and one of the reasons why I want to do that is I'm currently using my Lenovo ThinkPad Helix 2, which I got literally just the other day, and this was the item I was talking about in my previous video when I said I had an item coming in the post that's going to help me out in different areas. This is the item, and I'll be talking about this item momentarily. But what I want to do with this video is talk about a little bit about behind the scenes. You can see up there quite visibly in shots is my softbox light. You can also see that quite visibly in shots is my camera. And although this looks a bit janky, this looks a bit, as if I'm completely ripping open the curtain and going, this is how I shoot things. I also want to sort of talk through some processes that I've gone through throughout my YouTube career and talk about what I've done to improve things, what I've done to sort of change some things up, talk about this, which I've mentioned in the past, and talk about the trials and tribulations I've personally had with that setup, and just talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff, because it's going to be leading into something that's happening tomorrow. I have something else coming through the post tomorrow which I'll be talking about. By the way, if you see my eyes look down, it's because I'm looking at the screen. I'll try and look at the camera lens every so often to make sure I'm not, it doesn't look too strange. Although if you look at the camera lens for too long, it starts to get a bit disconcerting, and of course people won't like it being disconcerting. So not always looking at the camera lens. That's actually a technique, a skill that YouTubers need to learn over time, is not to look at the camera too much, but make sure you look at it, every so often, just to keep that eye contact, so to speak. So the way I typically shoot my videos is using this. This is a Panasonic a Panasonic Lumix DMC GH1, and this is a marvelous camera. I'm sure everyone has heard of the GH4, the GH3, GH4, even the GH5 or whatever number they're up to now. The GH range of cameras that Panasonic have come up with are their professional, or their proto-professional range of cameras. These are aimed more at the professional, and we'll talk about some of the features of this camera versus the camera I used to use. I used to use the G3, the Panasonic G3, basically. And that camera, don't get me wrong, is a lovely camera. You can hack it to get better quality out of it. You can hack it to remove the 30-minute limit. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. It has the swivel out screen. It also has a touch screen. This doesn't have a touch screen. We'll talk about that trade-off in a minute. However, because it's not their professional range of cameras, there are some limitations to it. The main limitation between the GH range and the G range, or the GF range, is that you can't on the fly change any of the video settings. So on the fly with this camera, I can change the aperture, the shutter speed, the exposure, any of those, and it will change on the fly while the video is recording, and it updates instantly. Whereas with the G range and the GF range, you need to stop recording, set up your new settings, and then go ahead. The other thing about the GH range is on the actual screen or the viewfinder itself, it will update live for you what it looks like. The G and the GF, I don't know so much about the GF, the G range I can speak personally about, because I did have a G camera for a while, is you have to actually press the record button before you actually see what the camera is actually recording, so to speak. Whereas the GH range will show you on the screen what's going on before you shoot. It's just little things that the GH range does that's obviously geared towards the professional versus someone who's just going to be out and about using it as a point and shoot, and maybe presses the record button every so often just to shoot a picture or a video, sorry, of a squirrel running past, or a nice bird that flies through the sky, or some nice scenery, or if it starts chucking it down, or it starts snowing, something like that, they can just hit the record button, away they go, and they don't really care about, because if you're out and about doing some stuff, and to be honest, most of the time it'll be on some kind of auto mode, so the camera itself would adjust for any of the parameters. Whereas when you're a YouTuber, you're a bit more conscientious about how your videos are turning out. You're going to want a bit more finer control. The other difference between the G and the GF range and the GH range is the ability to have a microphone connected. Now, it wasn't until the GH3 that they made this an actual 3.5mm jack. It's a 2.5mm jack, but back when the GH1 was a thing, that was far more of a common practice than the 3.5mm jack. A lot of mics that you could put on this, I think it's actually a hot shoe rather than the cold shoe, you could actually put on this attachment up here, this, I'm just going to call it the shoe on the top. Most of them had a 2.5mm headphone jack. It's only because of the onset of smartphones, let's be completely honest, that the 3.5mm headphone jack and the 4-poled version of that headphone jack is what's now common, and that's probably why they've now converted that to a 3.5 headphone jack. Even on audio or field recorders, it was a 2.5 jack until probably again the onset of smartphones probably pushed it towards the 3.5 headphone jack. So, as I said also that the G3 had a touchscreen versus this non-touchscreen. Does that really directly impact me? Well, me personally, I found once I switched to the GH1 that I missed having the touchscreen on the G3, because I'd go to touch this screen and then go, oh, I can't do that. Once I got out of the habit of trying to touch the screen and, use it without that feature and get out of the muscle memory of using the touchscreen, it was fine. It was absolutely fine. And to be honest, I much prefer this. The other thing this does, and I can actually show you. So the other thing this does is you actually notice that the SD card is on the side. The SD card slot is on the side. Again, that's because when it's mounted on the tripod, the GF and the G range put it on the bottom along with the battery there. This also does something else, which I'll talk about in a minute as well, that I've already sort of showed you, but I'll talk more specifically in a minute. So they put the SD card slot on the side, so it's far easier to switch in and out SD cards. You don't have to take the camera off the tripod, go to the battery compartment and go from there. On that note, this is another thing this does that's also geared towards the professional, is on the G range and the GF range, the mount you'll get on most tripods. So most tripods will come with a plate that you screw the plate into the bottom of the camera, and then that's the plate you attach to your tripod. The G range and the GF range, the plate, what's the word I'm looking for, is over the battery door. Whereas on the GH range, the battery door is actually to the side a little bit and allows you to access the battery very easily without having to take off the plate, which is again a marvelous feature and saves some time and some anguish. The other thing I would also say is the battery. By God, the battery in this thing. So I don't know if I have them on me right now. I do need to buy some additional batteries for this, but I had four. I think it was four total G3 batteries back when I had my Panasonic G3. I kid you not, one recording could take up a battery easy, depending on how long that recording went on for and in what resolution I decided to shoot in. If it was 1080p, about half an hour length video, it would eat up that battery. So that wouldn't really allow you many takes, because you'd literally, if you buggered up that half an hour take, then it'd be lost. You'd have to wait until your battery recharged and then carry on from there. This can go 4 hours, I think it is, something like stupid like that, continuous recording, and I've never tested that fully, but in using this camera, I can say that it does go for a very long time, and it takes a while for me to see the first battery block fall off. If I actually turn the camera on for a minute, it's going to moan there's no SD card, but if I can show you up here where the battery indicator is, it takes a while for that first block to appear empty. So the battery life in this is very good, very, very good. I'm just trying to think if there's any other. The other thing this does is it separates some of the controls that are more buried into the G and the GF menus. So it separates off the autofocus systems, so continuous, single and manual focus. It separates that into its own knob. It also separates out the shooting modes when you're still shooting, the drive modes such as single, burst, continuous and timer. So that's really nice, and there are a few more buttons around the place. It also has a back button focus if you want to make it that. That's an autofocus / AU lock. You can also use that for back button focus or autofocus or whatever you want to call that, which a lot of photographers do like. The thing I like about this camera a hell of a lot is it really is a true hybrid between shooting stills and shooting video. I primarily, in fact exclusively, use it for shooting video, but it's good for shooting stills as well. So that was a lot on the camera, and even as a YouTuber at my caliber, I would even say personally for me, I am a bit of a stickler for some things when it comes to my videos. This is the way to go for me. Yes, most people starting out on YouTube would use their phone, and I'd still highly suggest if you're starting out on YouTube, use your phone. This camera still, with the lens and the camera itself, is still over £100. I paid 125, I think it was 130, to get both the body and the lens. If you want to get a GH2 or even a GH3, you're looking at £200, £300. And for a new YouTuber only just starting out, that's a lot of money. I don't necessarily suggest that, but obviously most people have a smartphone these days, and the glorious thing about a smartphone is you can shoot, edit and upload using your phone, which is marvelous. So I've spoken about the camera quite a bit, and I've explained some of the shortcomings like the 2.5mm headphone jack. And the reason why I want to specifically point that out, I'm going to take a swig of coffee, is because of this. This is my Rode SmartLav Plus, and you can see that the bag is actually falling apart here. But inside here is a lavalier mic that Rode have made that fits into most smartphones. I'm going to say most smartphones, and it's just a standard lavalier mic. It's actually quite a high quality lavalier mic. One thing I'm going to say, this cost me £50. I'm going to get that out of the way straight away. This cost me £50. One thing I'll say is there are cheaper alternatives out there. Don't go for them. Don't go for the £5, £10, even £20 ones, because they are rubbish. You'll get a hiss on the line, on the feed, on the audio feed, that's just going to sound horrible and is a bitch to get out of your audio in post editing, post production. So the Rode SmartLav Plus is the way to go. However, I've had problems with this. The first problem, and as I sort of stated a minute ago, it works in most smartphones. There are some smartphones it has problems with. We now get on to my phone. My phone is a Sony Xperia 1. Bloody lovely phone. I enjoy this phone. I love this phone a lot. I love it so much, I'm not even sure if I'm going to upgrade when my upgrade comes up. That's beside the point. However, it's one of those phones without a headphone jack and has a USB-C connector in the bottom. I've actually misplaced it, but it requires a USB-C to 3.5mm dongle in order to connect headphones. Well, the one that came with this phone broke within a few months of getting the phone. So that was nice. Also, whenever I was using headphones with that dongle on Discord, Skype, places like that, my friends would continually mention the fact that my audio was very quiet. Okay, we now enter into this. So before I had the Sony Xperia 1, I had a Samsung device. The exact Samsung device I had eludes me right now. But this I'd have to literally wiggle around inside the jack in order to get it to connect with the dongle. That's the first issue. The second issue is on the Samsung I had before my Sony here. It wouldn't always work. I had to really jam this into the socket to get it working. And the reason for this, if you've got an iPhone with a recessed headphone jack, this will work perfectly because that's what it's intended for. This was actually originally made in conjunction with Apple because Apple have the Rode app on their devices, which actually costs about a $5 to buy. I bought it on iOS, however, I primarily drive an Android phone. That's my daily driver. So they don't have an official app on the Google Play Store. We'll get to that in a bit, actually, talking of which. So these are kind of manufactured for iOS devices, and they work on Android devices. It's been quite temperamental for me, and it's been infuriating. I actually now use a old Sony Xperia XZ Premium, which is currently downstairs, in order to get the audio out of that. Mike, even that is temperamental. And we now move on to, actually, let's move on to this first. This is an adapter. This converts the 4-pole connector of the SmartLav Plus. Don't know if you can see there. Oh, if I turn it around that way, you can see there are 3 black lines, which makes this a 4-pole or a TRRS connector. This adapter takes it from a 4-pole and takes it down to a 3-pole. The reason why you want to do this is because this won't work in audio recorders, direct audio recorders, because the reason why it has 4 poles is that's for stereo headphones and then 1 final pole for mic. You know what I mean. This takes away one of the poles and allows you to use it with just standard audio recorders. Well, this I had to buy because when I first started having problems with that, I bought this to fix it. This is £10. Why is it £10? You may ask. A, it's done by Rode, and Rode do kind of put an upcharge on their products. Also, this wire is Kevlar lined. So's this wire, but we're going to get onto something about that in a minute. This is expensive for this kind of connector. You can get this connector for a few pound. You don't have to pay £10 for it, but I paid £10 because I wanted to have the official connector, so I knew everything worked. However, as I've explained previously, this is temperamental. Not this, more the actual connector on the SmartLav Plus itself. Talking of it being temperamental, I'm now gonna take off the little Velcro collar that keeps it all nice and tidy and show you this. This is electrical tape that I've wrapped round the top of the jack. The reason why I've done that is I have to keep the wire in a certain position for it to actually make a connection, essentially. So, the whole point of it being a Kevlar lined cable is to stop stuff like this happening. So the cable is nice and professional, and it's not professional, robust. It's so it can put up with snagging. It's so it can put up with being pulled around, being driven over, being ridden over, being stretched, pulled, abused, I suppose, for lack of a better term. However, the fact that only a few months after I got this mic, I started getting problems with it, and I just hear this really obnoxious static or noise on the audio feed is because of that connector. I didn't know it was a fault with the wire until much later when the warranty ran out. If I'd realised sooner what that issue was, I would have gotten that replaced through Amazon where I originally bought the item. But alas, yeah. So what you're probably gathering is I've had quite a few problems with these recently, and the most recent video I uploaded, the end of the year 2020 video, I noticed the audio was not very clean. It was very muffled. It sounded like I was kind of underwater. At least it did to me compared to what this mic used to sound like, nice and clear. It's obvious to me that that mic is no longer sufficient. And given that I already don't have a lot of faith in that mic because it gave up literally months after buying the mic, I'm not going to spend another £50 on another one of these. However, you could probably tell by the way I'm talking, I have got another solution coming, and we'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, softbox light. So this is actually quite an interesting story. So I used to shoot my videos in a room, the room next door. In fact, the room next door is the toilet, the room after that. And it's only has one window into the room. It's in the corner and it's hard to get light into there. So I wanted to get some softbox lights to get some light into the room. Plus, I did have people complaining that I was always dark and it made people depressed and all that kind of stuff. Do I actually believe it made people straight up depressed? No, I just think they were trolls. But nonetheless, I did want to make my videos look a bit more professional. If I turn this off now, this still looks quite adequate, if I'm being completely honest, because I've got the overhead light on. But if I turn this on, it just makes things a bit more brighter. It illuminates my face. To be honest, this is actually the wrong way to use it. I should have the softbox pointing up to the ceiling for the light to bounce down upon my head, because at the moment it's too harsh technically. Looks like I've got a halo around my head. It looks like this half of my face is lit, this half of my face isn't. Either to solve that, you'd have another softbox like this side, so it illuminates the face evenly, or you'd bounce the light off the ceiling, almost using the ceiling as another diffuser. That's the way you'd probably do that. But the irony is I was looking on eBay for some cheap softbox lights. And the softbox lights themselves were nice and cheap. Delivery though was stupidly expensive. And I do mean stupidly expensive. I then found a distributor that was based in my home city that I basically managed to sweet talk into waiving the postage costs because we lived in the same city, despite the fact that if you dove a bit deeper on their eBay page, you found out they're actually based in China. But that's beside the point. So the softbox lights themselves were about £30–40. Postage was about £20–30 on top of that. So you're looking at about £60–70 give or take for some softbox lights. I managed to sweet talk them into waiving the cost. So I actually said to them I'd be willing to travel to where you are, pick them up, all that kind of stuff. And the next thing I know, they turn up at my doorstep, and I message them saying, they said, don't worry about the postage costs. We'll do this on this occasion as a solid. So, they did kind of intimate they might be fans or might watch my YouTube channel, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I managed to get those for essentially half price. So much. I've got two of these. The other one I use as a backup because they both come with their own bulb. The bulbs aren't cheap. The reason why they're not cheap is because A, they're actually quite a high wattage, and B, they produce a much whiter light than your standard bulb. And to get that white light can be quite expensive for the engineers to get that light as white as they need it. But the bulbs have lasted bloody ages, so can't really complain about that one. So that's everything to do with my setup when it comes to equipment. Obviously I've got a PC downstairs that I use to edit my videos. I now have this Lenovo ThinkPad Helix 2, which we'll talk about now. So yeah, I've got a Lenovo ThinkPad Helix 2. It has a Core M processor inside, a quad-core Core M, clocked at 800 megahertz. It can boost to 2 gigahertz, 4 gig of RAM, and a 128 SSD inside it, and Intel 5300 graphics. I tell you what, it's lovely. It's very speedy, it's very quick. I haven't had much problems with it. It serves my purpose. I can use this like I am now as a little camera if I want to with a headset and record videos this way. If I wanted to, I could also use this as a way of recording audio if I wanted to. There are ways that I could record audio directly into this thing. What else? I could use it to edit videos. I can use it to upload videos. It's just a versatile bit of equipment. It's also one of those two-in-one things where it has a tablet and a keyboard dock. I can detach the tablet component and just have the tablet part if I want to, or vice versa. Yeah, it works really well for my purposes, and I'm really happy I got it. So we're now going to move on to what is arriving tomorrow. What's arriving tomorrow is the Rode Wireless Go. So the Rode Wireless Go, I'm going to get an image up on my phone and show you. Make sure I'm not showing off any details that I don't want people to know about. If I do this, it's not showing. So this is the Rode Wireless Go. And what that essentially is it's a wireless system from Rode. So that's the receiver, that's the opposite of the receiver. And this actually has an inbuilt transmitter. So the transmitter actually has an inbuilt mic. So you can use it as a lavalier mic. Plus, if I switch to this part here, also has its own fuzzy, as people call these, as a wind filter. You can also use it as a pop filter. So, and also that's a patch cable, and it comes with a nice little bag that you can put it all into should you want to. Now, the reason why I've gone for that is it's going to make recording videos far simpler. I can attach it to the top of my camera. I can put a cable from that into my camera. I can attach the transmitter to my collar or something, have it pointing up towards my mouth, and I can record nice clean audio into the camera and not have to sync it post-production because it records directly into the camera. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, I can just record it into, say, my phone, my laptop, whatever I wish to, the Sony XZ Premium downstairs. I can record it into any of those things and it should be far cleaner, nicer audio than I'm currently getting out of this thing. It also allows me to be a bit mobile. So if I want to move around, all that kind of stuff, it allows me to do that. I can't do that with this, because if I snag on this cable too much, it's going to stop working and I'm not going to have the nice audio from that. So yes. Also, there are many other applications I can think of off the top of my head for that little system that allows my videos to be that bit more professional, should I wish them to be. So yeah, that's been a little bit of a behind the scenes on equipment I use. If you're wondering about my headset, these are the HyperX Cloud 2. I love HyperX's line of products. Kingston, actually, are the people behind HyperX, if you didn't know. I used to have the Cloud 1s. Unfortunately, the mic went south on them. These are the Cloud 2s. These are wonderful, wonderful headsets. They cost me about £100, give or take, but these are a wonderful set of headphones. And yeah, these are also part of my setup, because of course I listen to when I'm editing videos through these, and you're currently hearing the mic quality through these. But yes, hopefully that sort of a peer into the behind the scenes of how I go about making my videos. At the moment, I am literally recording them against my boiler cupboard, which is literally just to my left. But you're currently sat on the desk where the main part of my collection is, and hopefully I will tidy this up in the next few days and get that as a nice backdrop to my videos. This has been quite a long video at 32 minutes 34 seconds and counting, but hopefully this has given some people a peer into the background of how and what equipment I use to record my videos, and you can tell by the fact I've just ordered that Rode Wireless Go that I'm constantly thinking about how to make my videos more professional, better looking, better sounding, all those different things. So hopefully this gives people ideas, gives them a bit of insight, whatever it may be. Hopefully this either helps people or helps people understand, to be honest, the effort I do try and put in to my videos, however small my channel might be. I will say this one thing though, is you don't need to go to these links. You don't need to buy a dedicated camera. You don't need to buy, just sat here alone, I've got, over £200-400 worth of equipment. You don't need to spend that kind of money on a YouTube video or a YouTube channel just starting out. It's just that I, over time, have bought these things. I've now been doing YouTube, was it 13 years now? Give or take 13-14 years now, give or take, and I've just upgraded as I've gone along. I've gotten a nicer camera, softbox lights, mics, and that kind of stuff. It's just as time's gone on, I've decided to upgrade different aspects of my setup. Anyway, guys, you guys take care. I hope 2021 is going to be a brilliant year for you, for me, for everybody, and hopefully we can put 2020 in the past. And yeah, hopefully this is a good first video, and I'll be getting on to my next video very soon. Until next time, guys, please take care, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.